Welcome to the Lovecars On The Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff Needell, and Paul Woodman.
On the grid today, Max takes a maximum and it's all closing up at the top of the F1 points table. Ogier takes a tumble and Evans is back on top in WRC. There's a new winner in MotoGP. Titles are decided in World Superbike and British Superbike. What's BSB? British Superbike. And of course, there's plenty of NASCAR drama at Talladega, baby. So yes, there's lots to go through.
But first, it's lovely to have you back, Paul. But you sent me this YouTuber bloke last week. His names are back to front, Hamilton James. It should be James Hamilton. I got quite confused. Anyway, it seemed to work quite. He brought cameras and things and good sound, and he brought a producer as well. So, he'd rather put us to shame with his production values, but it seemed to go down quite well. So,
well, I hope so. He's a super nice guy, and I'm working on another project. Playing paddle tennis around the world, actually, which is so bizarre.
A new show coming to you soon. Love Paddle.
But we love. Tiff and I do this for. Well, we do this for love. Really, we love the sport. So yeah.
So will you be sending Hamilton my way again? Then do you think? Well,
definitely.
Might reappear.
Yeah. I mean, I think, but judging by the listens and the views, it's done incredibly well. So long may that continue. So
I think Hamilton watched it 1,000 times himself. That I can't see another reason why our figure shot up.
Oh, well, I think it's a combination of that and the fact that you said we got Hamilton on the pod today. The clickbait worked. Well done. You're learning. Right, is Max going to win the Formula One championship?
No, I still don't think he is. But what a turn up for the books! I mean, it was an amazing weekend in America. And of course, he got 8 points. But I thought before he can't catch up that many points in the Grand Prix because I discounted sprint. And of course, you tend to discount the McLarens taking each other out, which is obviously that's the only way he's going to win if the McLarens take each other out again. And talk about how come everybody seems to softly with Oscar Piastri? I mean, am I not the only one that thought, well, hold on a minute, Lando tapped into Max in Singapore and then just tapped into Oscar, and the world went mad at anti Lando and some sort of what was the word in the Orange Army called? Not the Orange Army, the Papaya Army. There will be consequences or something. But to my mind, Oscar just put on full left lock to try to go inside Lando without any thought or risk valuation that there might well be on a very tight hairpin corner, another car where he went.
You've got to be thinking there's a car there, haven't you? You've got to be thinking open lap.
It was a drastic. I thought it was a drastic manoeuvre by Oscar. It was almost a panic. I've got to get him. After Singapore. So I'm quite surprised that all the experts, I think there's quite a bit of banter on Twitter that blames Oscar a bit more, but nobody seemed to be that anti-blaming Oscar on the Sky pads. I think they tried to not get involved, Sky boys, with what's going on with the Papaya rules. But, we'd started with qualifying chaos, haven't we, as well, with that they've got to sort out this queuing up at the end of the pit lane. Well, it's about 6 cars, and of course sprint quali is only about 10 minutes. It's much shorter sessions, and about 5 cars didn't make it to start their second qualifying lap. So all of those that had cocked up on their first attempt, like Yuki, but it just looks so ridiculous.
It does. It looks so amateur, doesn't it? It's
one
the
car
pinnacle of
motorsport.
At the end. Yeah.
I mean, I've just said, which I've said before, that as soon as you're in the fast lane, you hit the pit lane limiter button for 50 miles an hour, whatever it is, 50 Ks, and you have to drive out onto the track.
Absolutely.
And it's the other fact that a lot of other Formula, I think even in Formula E, you see it happening. I think W Series or Formula One Academy do it, where you have to stay in the garage until lights go green. And so you get everybody shoots out of the garages that everyone wants to get out straight away, or you can stay in your garage if you want. But once you've left your garage and joined the lane,
that's not very fair for you in the 20th garage, is it?
Well, the problem is with that theory is that, of course, the Formula One they want the first garage on the way in, don't they? They don't want the garage at the front. Which way? Some tracks are different. They tend to put the slower teams at the garages at the front end of the pit lane. Well, they don't at Silverstone, so I don't know how that works. But there should be some sort of last year's championship. Well, in the order of constructors, you pick your garage for the year ahead.
No, then it's a massive advantage.
Well,
you don't want to give the winners an advantage.
Yes, you do.
I don't mind if they queue up. I don't mind if they queue up. Actually, I don't mind if they queue up
Looks
on a red
ridiculous.
light. No, on a red light. On a red
light.
The
beginning, yeah, before the session starts.
But once it's a green light, you got to go, son. You got to go. So I do like your idea.
But anyway, so of course Max again out qualified the two McLarens, and then we had the Ferraris. They qualified that was the Grand Prix when they had the better tyres. I'm getting confused the two races. The Ferraris were 8th and 9th, weren't they, for sprint? So then turn one, we had the big shunt, which took out. I mean, Lando was about 6 inches short of, well, maybe a bit more than that, of getting 7 points instead of 0, thanks to Oscar's dramatic variation of steering wheel in the middle of the first corner. So I do put that more on Oscar than Lando for sure. I mean, it was a racing accident because it's first corner, and maybe the stewards were a bit, didn't want to. But I think maybe the stewards shouldn't have given any penalties. But I think Oscar should nevertheless have been more blamed than. But of course, Zach tried to blame amateurish movement from Hulkenberg, didn't he? He'd come from 4th on the grid. So anyway, we had the sprint with another 8 points for Max, and flipping hell, that's another 8 points. George quietly came through to second as usual.
He is unbelievable. Fair play.
And then Carlos Sainz had another podium in 3rd. And then the Ferraris recovered to 4th and 5th, but mainly because the two McLarens are missing. So a lot of drama in the sprint. Then in the main qualifying, Hadjar crashed and he went out of Q1. Albon again. I keep on saying, Albon, I'm a big fan of Alex Albon, that, he has a lot of bad luck. Things seem to go wrong for him. And his team put him out in traffic so he can't get his warm-up. So he blames the team for, sending him out in the middle of the wrong gaps in qualifying so he can't do his own tyre. There always seems to be something with Alex. This time he mucked up his first lap somehow. I forget how he did that. And then he did track limits on his second lap and didn't make it out of Q1. In a car that was top 10, had top 10 speed all weekend.
Do you think it's something to do with the fact that he's actually got a very strong teammate now?
I think
extra pressure.
Carlos pressure, quite well be. But he's got to stop making these little mistakes, or his team have got to make. It's a shame that because I think the more mistakes you make, the more desperate you get to prove everyone wrong at the next race.
And the thing is, you and I are talking about it as if Carlos is schooling him. Carlos just had another podium, and Carlos. We should remember that Alex has got almost double the points of Carlos this season so far. So he's been far superior, and with the qualifying as well, typically.
But frustrating. Ollie Behrman, a great 8th on the grid. That was fantastic. Again, he has another. I think he hasn't raced there before, so he hadn't raced at Singapore before. So he's turning up at tracks he doesn't know.
Do you remember his first race? Where he was first race?
Well, that Ferrari, the Ferrari driving. Was that the first race?
But his first F1 race. No, his first F1 race was at Jeddah, and he did unbelievably well.
In the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Didn't he have one race in the Haas the year before when Magnussen was?
Okay, maybe.
I think he had one race in the Haas the year before.
Let us know below, you or you clever lot, please.
You clever lot. So then in the race itself for the Grand Prix, we had, of course, the Oscar only qualified 6th, Max on pole again. Then in the race, Leclerc put on the soft tyres and half out-dragged Lando, but then out-fumbled him at turn 1. So, in fact, I think George at the end did one of his very George analytics. Well, if that had happened, he's very serious, isn't he? And he works it all out. Well, if I hadn't been pushed to 6th at the turn 1 and I got through and finished, I would have finished 3rd. It's all sort of very clinical analysis that everything was decided, according to George.
On the first lap.
In qualifying and at the first corner. Well, he's partly right. I mean, because the only overtake was Lando's fantastic battle to eventually get by Leclerc. But he was correct that as they left turn 1 on lap 1, that was the order till the end of the race. So even on a track, I wonder
if that overtake will get Lando the Drivers' Championship this year. It's funny with just how it can just one little thing like that.
But it was
a couple of points.
It was a fuss because because both Hamilton and Oscar got past George going up to turn 1 or out of turn 1. So George lost 2 spots. So he really did make a bad first. That's why I think he was so pissed off that his race was over after turn one. But Hamilton, Lewis had a good race, chasing in the second Ferrari for fourth place, and the Leclerc battle kept us all interested for most of the race. And then really the only real dramas was Sainz taking out Antonelli, and then shrugging his shoulders saying he wasn't. He's got a grid place penalty, hasn't he, for Mexico for attacking Antonelli. And then the move that seemed to get no stewards' inquiries and not much analysis from the sky again, of Yuki chopping Behrman. I don't know whether you saw that because you come back from Spain last night. So it was on this sort of double apex where you could either go in tight for the first day and stay tight, you can stay wide for apex 1 and then go tight for apex 2. And so Behrman was looking to lunge down inside the turn 1 apex to finish the overtake into the second element of this left-hander that tightens. And you saw Yuki it just suddenly turned in, and this, you can't move under braking. He absolutely did move under braking, but apparently nothing
desperate
did
man,
so.
a very, very desperate man.
That's what Behrman was saying. So he had to straight line. He was off on the dirt then and spun in front of Yuki and dropped from 7th to eventually finish 9th. So he cost him a couple of places at the end of the race with Ollie. But Yuki ended up with 2 7th places because he came from about 14th on the grid of the sprint and got through all the first corner crashes amazingly and finished 7th in the sprint and 7th in the. So I suppose he thinks that's good. He's got points for the team, so that might save his job, but who knows? Someone else was having a right old go at Yuki. I don't know. He was having a go at Lawson, I think, and they both said. And Behrman was very angry.
Yuki had a go at Lawson, so Lawson retaliated.
Yeah, but of course, the other big excitement I've only caught up with this morning. I mean, forget Watergate, forget Partygate. Have you read about Gate? That they had in Formula One.
What's Gate? Oh, Yuki snuck under, didn't he?
A Red Bull mechanic. It's scandalous. It's almost as scandalous as Watergate and Partygate, because when Lando lines up on the grid, he gets his mechanics to put a silver strip of gaffer tape on the wall next to where he lines up. And apparently this has happened at previous Grand Prix. So apparently it's not illegal because there's no rule against it. The Red Bull personnel occasionally manages to rip the tape off. So just before the start of the race, when everybody's leaving the grid, and the gate happened to be where Lando was. So his silver strip of paint was right by the gate. So the Red Bull man that's tasked with this job of nicking the tape was trying to push against the people coming off the grid start to try and get to his job of removing or moving Lando's sticky tape.
No.
So they've fined Red Bull about $50,000, I think, or something this morning. I don't know.
How did you used to do it? It was always trickier than you think because it all looks the same. Obviously, if you're in pole, it's not too bad. But when you line up on the grid, you do your outlap, you come back, and then you've always got to look for someone somewhere. Look at a. There's numbers, of course, but flags or something that you've got to get right.
But yeah, Gate will go down in history as the greatest gate. So it was an entertaining Grand Prix, but mainly
imagine that being your job. What's your job, mate? Well, I got steal some tape. Yeah.
But it was quite interesting the way Lando dropped back. When he first came out on his fresh, soft tyres, they were really grippy, so he caught Leclerc quickly. They made a couple of overtake attempts and then fell away. And you thought it's all over, boring. But he literally just cooled the tyres down for 3 or 4 laps. His engineer told him on the radio, then we'll go again. And when he went again, he had the grip. And by then Leclerc's mediums, which were about 8 laps older anyway, or 12 laps older. But again, it just rages me about this. Again, every week I get upset with this inability to follow, and everybody raves. I've said this so many times. Everybody raves about turns 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at COTA. Wonderful challenge. The drivers love the challenge. But by the time you get to turn 9 before the DRS zone begins, you're 0.7 down. And it was amazing how if you get 0.5, if you come out of that hairpin, 0.5 down, you could overtake. If it's 0.7, as Lando proved on about 10 occasions, all you can do is draw alongside on the out, and then it doesn't work.
A friend of mine, I won't mention his name, you know him as well, but he's a press officer for somebody there. And I said, how is it? And he was messaging me over the weekend because he's got a crazy Stetson on, which he looks like something out of Brokeback Mountain. But that's not the point. He said, Formula One is all about big business now. He said that's all it is. Everything's very woke and very corporate. So, because he's just come back from doing some press officer stuff. So first Formula One race the press officer for a few years. So yeah, he says it's
but the crowd,
big business.
Massive crowd. You see IndyCar there or NASCAR there, and there's a few people standing on the bank. I mean, it is.
Well, they're doing something right then, aren't they? They're just they're
hyping it.
Yes,
driving, surviving it, and hyping it. There's hyping, just PR, just making it this event you must go to. You have got to go to this event to be bored to death by a procession of Grand Prix cars.
But the great news is we're going to have innovation because we can look forward to the future.
Can we?
Because of of course we can look forward to the future because we've got the same man in charge for another 5 years.
Sustainable? Oh yes, we haven't covered that, have we? I've forgotten to make a note.
For the next 5 years. Oh, it's
and one
awful.
person, one human being, Mrs. Eccleston, as the deciding vote of a whole go. Well, how many people vote? I think it's 350 votes go for the FIA president. 350 clubs have one vote. One person. So there's only one vice president of motorsport in the whole of South America that's qualified. Apparently, there were other people that could have applied for the job, but somehow they got rejected. Somehow, only one person holds the title, vice president motorsport South America. And you have to have
dreadful, inexcusable, should not be happening.
The other thing is, I think Tim Mayer, who was going to have a go, who can't enter. Simply because you can't get a vice president of South America because there's only one. He's talked about what's that word for fudging things? Human rights, not rights. Oh, when you question the ability, anyway, question the ability or question the morality of decision making. But he's applied. But apparently, the decision makers for any complaints about the word I've forgotten is. Ben and his co-director, so two people will view any complaints and make a decision. No, that complaint doesn't sound.
But we've spent decades getting rid of. I'm not saying Ben is a dictator, far from it, but it's a dictatorship. If that is the situation, it needs to be. You need to have options and just consider, debate, talk about it, see what's good, see what's bad. Don't.
It's embarrassing for the sport, isn't it? I mean, that's the point, apart from anything else. I'm just looking at that word now. It's driving me mad. So it's always one of those stupid words I forget. Challenging. I can't find. I've got a new phone, by the way. I've got a big phone now.
So Hamilton was impressed with your driving stories over the years?
Yes, we had good fun. We didn't talk about much. Last week there was a lot of motorsport to discuss, so we couldn't go into it. More news. Come on, more news. It's not downloading now. Got a new phone with all these things. I'd love to get that. Where I can't get names of drivers.
He's actually very tech savvy. However, no, that sometimes it's like watching. I don't know, herding frogs. Is that the right?
No, we're boring everybody now. We're moving on.
Yeah,
that's Formula One. World Rally Championship. That is getting really
tight now, isn't it? Is Elfyn finally going to get his Elfyn title?
Well, his two Toyota teammates were battling for the lead, neck and neck, 1 second apart. Kalle Rovanperä and Sébastien Ogier. Ogier leading the championship, Rovanperä third in the championship. And then, shock of all shocks, there he is in the ditch. Ogier came through a long, fast right-hand, a lot of leaves on road, warning to public people. And the commentary nearly broke my eardrums with no. Two commentators at the same time. Both, he's off. No. I can see he's off. I'm what? Yes. Corners off. Anyway, so Ogier, who had got into the lead of the championship, chased back and taken the lead off of Elfyn at the last round, what he does thinks. He did get some points because you can come back on the Sunday, and he won the fastest stage points at the end of the day. And Rovanperä then wanted to easily win. Elfyn had to fight hard to hold off a battle from Hyundai's lead boy, Tanak, who's fourth in the championship and still has a mathematical possibility if he can win all the other rallies. And there's only two left. I think he could still just about win it if they all crash out. Elfyn's now got a 13-point lead. Rovanperä, who finished first ahead, picked up 6 points over Elfyn over the weekend, which is not a lot, but so 2 more rallies. It's all very tight. And Rovanperä is now equal with Ogier. Of course, Rovanperä has announced he's going to Superform. We talked about this last week with Hamilton. He's going off to Japan to start a single-seater career at the age of 24 or 5, whatever he is. It was a fascinating project for him to go and have a go at. But they're
he's
equal
some talent.
on points.
He's some talent. It'd be interesting how that goes.
I know. Well, these last 2 rally. Where are the last 2 rounds? They're. I think there's one in Japan, one in Fuji, the Fuji rally on the 28th of. Can't find my dates. I'm looking at the dates. Yes, Japan, November the 9th, Japan, and then into Saudi, where all last rounds are held now because that's what they pay for. 2 rounds to go, so that's going to be really fascinating. However, there was a nasty crash. Thierry Neuville got his pace notes wrong. It's always the thing, they just believe in pace notes. They have to.
Of course. Yeah.
They're just you just drive to what the pace note that someone else is reading to you says. I mean, you've told him what note you want, and it's an unbelievable belief and confidence in your code.
I mean, that's unbelievable. But when some of them will be 3 corners, maybe 4 corners in front, so they'll be going to a corner and they'll be saying left 24 or whatever. But actually, that's for 3 or 4 corners in front.
You're driving through a hairpin bend, and he's saying flat right over crest into flat left, and you're coming out of a hairpin. So you've got to. Yeah, you've got to drive the car and then remember. It's not really makes. When I did it for several, I did 2 Rally GBs, have survived Rally
Amazing,
GBs.
Tiff, yeah.
And a Scottish rally. And anyway, in the last, I did a really little Daihatsu Charade, little tiny 4-wheel drive Daihatsu boxes. And I had a really good driver. I had different co-drivers every time, so I never really got used to anyone. But this last one, it just seemed to click. And instead of, I liken it to when so many continental people learn brilliant English. I've got many Swedish friends. And of course, they think in English. So if you'd speak to me in French, my brain would translate that from French into English. And then I'd reply, turning my English into French, So you translate in your brain. But people that learn English well don't, because they think in English, or they talk in English. And it's the same exact with a pace note. So I'm thinking, okay, a flat 6 over crest. That means a slight corner over a crest into 100. That's 100 yards into left 6. That left 6, that's sort of almost 9. But instead, when you've got it, the words become a picture. So you literally, the words come in and you have a vision of that road ahead of you. So you don't translate. Wow. And so that's why it's hard for us to understand. Yeah. When you get it to click, it's the most magical moment.
Wow.
That you've just
Was that on the last one, was it?
Last rally I ever did was that. Wow. I had a really good co-driver. And fascinating. So that's what they have. They have that, they've got the words become a picture. And then they drive.
Oh, that's good. That's probably the most impressive and interesting thing you've ever said in 3.5 years. That's really cool.
But Neuville came round, underestimated the tightness, onto a bridge, and he just understeered because he couldn't turn enough and hit right on the end of the bridge. And if he'd turned a bit less and gone straighter, it was a huge valley into a river at the bottom. So it would have been a horrendous shunt. I mean, it was a horrendous shunt anyway, because he stopped dead from 70, 60 miles an hour. They both went to have a check-up at hospital. They got both pretty windy by just hitting this ironclad railway railing. So he hasn't had much a good year, really, because he's the reigning champion, isn't he, Thierry? Yes, Thierry.
He is, yeah.
So rallying, very exciting. MotoGP, it's all pretty much over and done with, but it was down to that magical Australian Phillip Island racetrack. Everyone loves it. I've seen Superbikes. It's the most beautiful, flowing, fast. It's got really quick corners. It's got really tight hairpins where especially motorbikes you do a block pass down the inside. It's a great racing circuit. And the Australians were nearly treated to a triple Aussie podium as well, because Jack Miller, the only Aussie in MotoGP, he qualified third on his, what's he on, a Yamaha now? He's had a pretty bad year. He's moving down the ranks. But he finished fourth in the sprint race. So he didn't quite get a podium. The sprint was run by the Aprilias that have come really strong the last couple of races. Marco Bezzecchi won it again. He's the guy that's on form. Raul Fernandez, the Spanish rider, came second, and the KTM of Pedro Acosta was third in the sprint. But then Bezzecchi had to do a 2-lap penalty in the Grand Prix because of putting Marc Marquez off at the last round. So he fell, but he still got back to third place. So quick at the moment, Bezzecchi on this Aprilia. So Fernandez went through to win the Grand Prix, his first ever win, the Spanish boy, with Fabio Di Giannantonio second on a Ducati. But Mark Miller, Jack Miller sadly crashed out, hoping to get a podium in Australia. And his career is getting towards its end, so he'd have loved to have had that. But the Aussies had a win in Moto2, so they really haven't done it. They had a win in Moto2 from Senna Agius, and a second place in Moto3 with the Aussie Joel Kelso. It's about how come every racing drivers and sportsmen do lift their performance when they get home. It's bizarre when you're at the top of a sport. Don't you
think it's a case of that they know the track better than anyone else? They know that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they would have had many races. If they they start to Moto3, they leave home at 15. You leave Australia or New Zealand, then you start to go to Europe. And so I don't think it's track knowledge. I think it's some amazing physical, mental thing. Because Miller qualified fourth. He hadn't qualified anywhere near fourth all year. So he was quick in qualifying. And then, and Agius has had one win already this year, but Kelso's never won Moto3, but he's been up in the top 6, top 10, regularly. But Moto2 was actually a cracking race behind it. Agius won it quite easily, but this battle for second, David Alonso took it in the end with Diego Moreira third. Moreira's chasing the Spanish boy Gonzalez for the championship. One championship still to go, motorcycle racing, is Moto2. But Kelso couldn't quite beat the already named champion Rueda from Spain in Moto3. But just watching the bikes around that circuit, that's entertainment for me. The racing, one rider on his own is exciting, but when they're all in a pack going through these amazing, swirling, fast corners. So 2 podiums for the Aussies back home in Phillip Island.
Good.
World Superbikes, as expected, we had 2 champions that we thought would be champions, but Toprak Razgatlioglu went through a bit of a dramatic race 2 when he was taken out by his challenger, Nicola Bulliga, the Italian on a Ducati. First lap, turn about 5, and Bulliga went underneath him and just slid wide, took Toprak out, which meant that there was still a mathematical chance of Bulliga taking the championship in race 3, but he didn't manage to do that because Bulliga only had to. Razgatlioglu only had to finish about 13th or something. There was a bit of a football violence going on. The Turkish fans got a bit angry. So when Bulliga won the second race, having put Toprak in the gravel and went to the podium, the Turkish played all with their flags up, booing, shouting down Bulliga. Wasn't pretty. Ooh. So football fans have arrived in Superbikes by the looks of it. But luckily at the end, after Bulliga won the third race as well, but Toprak came through, took about third, I think. He was third. And so Toprak went straight away and gave him a hug in front of the fans, Because it was racing. It was racing. So luckily he didn't make a thing of it. Then a Brands Hatch car ride quite easily held off Bradley Ray's challenge to take the number 1 plate off of Kyle's Yamaha. So car ride wins 2 on the trot. Nothing like as dramatic as last year's Brands Hatch. Scott Redding had 2 wins, and he's signed up to do full BSB next year. And we've got one's coming back from World Superbikes, Ryan Vickers, I think it is. British Superbikes has got 2 really fast runners rejoining, I should say. One thing I want to say about back in, what country? Spain, wasn't it? The World Superbikes. Also saw Jonathan Ray retire, this Northern Ireland bloke that when he dominated World Superbikes from 2015 to 2020, he won 6 World Championships on the trot, Jonathan Ray. Unbelievable.
Wow.
And I think he followed that by a couple of thirds and a second before he switched to Honda. I think he switched to, and then his merits went down. But he crashed twice. It's his retirement weekend. His wife and young kids are all there. For goodness' sake, let's get out of this sport in one piece. And he came out at the beginning of race 3. He wasn't in race 3 because he was on crutches almost to shake hands with the whole team and waved him goodbye. So a big. Lovely to see Jonathan Ray retiring almost in one piece after an amazing Superbike career. And then the entertainment Sunday, that was NASCAR. So Talladega, baby, you have to watch it. I keep on saying watch Superbikes, but you've got to have Sky times 30 to watch a lot of it, because for about half the race they're running around saving fuel. I mean, they're three lines side by side at 200 miles an hour. So it's still spectacular, even though they're all just playing high-speed chess.
Which track did you race at over there? Did you drive a NASCAR on?
I did Charlotte for a TV job. I ran Charlotte in about 175 miles an hour, and I learned how complex it is to get a NASCAR. They look like these big trucks, and everybody takes the mickey out of them because they're so basic. But they're not basic at all when you're trying to go from 170 miles an hour around a corner to 175 around a corner. And the whole thing's designed to turn right, and so you're turning left, and then it's quite an act to drive one of those things. But the crashes always happen when it comes towards the end of the stages, because you get points at the end of stage 1 after 60 laps, and then in stage 2 after 120 laps, and then of course at the end of the race. So it all got a bit feisty coming up to the end of the first stage, and too much pushing, and they get their cars a bit weavy, and then they go spear off.
That must be terrifying, literally terrifying.
Well, it was for an AJ Allmendinger, who's a really nice racing character, won IndyCar races, and he's won all sorts of NASCAR races, a really talented driver. He's about 40 now. But he hit the wall so high. He was leading. All the crashes actually happened in the front rows, which is quite unusual. Normally it's the mid-pack that explodes into those huge roly-poly multi-shunts. But someone got a bit pushy, I think, on the row behind him, and just speared down the hill and caught the tail of Allmendinger, shot him up into the wall. But he had a big engine fire going on, and he sort of crawled out and collapsed on the road. I think he had a huge impact as well on his chest from the seatbelt. And so he's winded, and then his car was full of smoke. So it was quite concerned for him as he lay on the track. But also took out the most important casualty apart. Not that AJ being a casualty is not important. But Chase Elliott was in this first shunt, and he's one of the 8 trying to get into the final 4, which puts him at the bottom of the knockout points. So Chase Elliott will have to win at the final qualifying round next weekend when they all go off to Milwaukee. So pretty bad news for Elliott. Then they all went round and round again for another hour, flat out. And it came to the last 10 or 15 laps were epic. And this, when you love it when you know there was another small caution, so everyone came out full tanks. Everyone was like had enough fuel, should have had enough fuel to go to the end. It was right on the edge of them getting enough fuel in. Yeah. So people were a bit worried about fuel. But the last 10 laps, they're in 2 lanes, and they're all pushing and shoving and edging and moving and changing a lane. As soon as you make a gap, you change a lane and then pick up a push. Then you change the other lane because the other lane's going faster than you. But anyway, Carl Larson, the master, the number 5, the Needell fan, he seemed to have it all under control. He was always up in this front 2, 3 or 4. But he led a lot of laps. The problem is you lead laps, you use more fuel, because you're on full throttle and they're all lifting and coasting. But before that, with about 10 to go, one of the leaders Chris Boucher. Oh, God, he hit the wall hard as well. Again, it was this pushing. So Chris Boucher was leading the outside lane. And I think it was for someone then pushed him. And then when they push, they all hold back a bit. You can't hammer the car in front of you at 5 miles. You can hit it at 2 miles an hour faster, but if you hit it 5 miles an hour faster, the poor bloke up in front. But just after the second in the row hit the first in the row, the third in the row hit the second in the row. So it's like a double impact. And the poor old bloke, he's lost it, spun straight left, missed everybody else, but slammed the inside wall really hard. So that put Boucher out. Then we had this 10-lap run when it was just building tension and building tension. You so hope there won't be a crash, because you want to see the last tactics and the last corner and the last run. When all of a sudden Larson leading down the back straight, half a lap to go, he's never won a super speedway race. So he hasn't won the 2 Talladega or Daytona. Ran out of fuel.
No.
And his team boss had told him he was all right to go, and he just pulled off in the middle of the back straight onto the apron, and the whole pack went by him. So round the outside of the turn 3 or 4, the other lane that was quicker then went through to win it. Chase Briscoe in a Toyota, who was already in the top 4 of the points. But he's now guaranteed to get into the final 4, along with Denny Hamlin, who won the last round.
Denny Hamlin.
But worse still for the Larson team, Hendrick Motorsport, the Chevrolets, because he had William Byron pushing him. So the teammates were on the inside line. So Byron was going to push Larson to win. It was a win, was inevitable. But coming up to the line, someone shunted Byron off. So Byron went from second or third, wherever he was at that moment, down to 25th. And Larson was 26th. So now it's just points, of course, because Larson was well in on points. But going from first to 26th, right, that's minus 25 spots.
Yeah.
So it's a massive drop down the order. So whereas Larson was easily in on points, he's now fourth on points, right? So if one of the other four wins ahead of him, he's pushed out.
Yeah.
So either he needs to win, or if either Byron, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, or Chase Elliott win, then Larson has to overtake Christopher Bell, who's 1 point ahead of him in the race. So there's two. This is what I love about the double. When they have these playoffs, there's winning the race will get you through, or B, outpointing in the points battle. So it's Christopher. So all 8 of the playoff people could win at Milwaukee. They're all quick round there, so it's going to be a really tense Milwaukee mile. No, it's not the Milwaukee mile. It is Milwaukee. I've written the name down. It's the paperclip track because it's got Martinsville, not Martinsville. So the Martinsville
starts
half
with
mile on Sunday night. 4 drivers will be there. They can only get, because they're so far behind on points. The 4 out of the points are a long way behind. So just on points alone, Bell and Larson should get through. But otherwise, it's 3 Toyotas through already almost.
Worst playoffs in sport has to be, this is a bit of a tangent, British Rugby Union, because you can be the top team by 40 points, and then they do a playoff for the top 3. So number 2 and 3 play each other, and then
like a knockout, like a semi-final.
Yeah, but you've already won it, so you're 40 points in front, and then
you have to go to a final.
You have to go to a final to win the Premiership. Absolutely ridiculous. Whoever thought of that? Ridiculous. What's up next week, Tiff? What's coming up?
Well, it's just Mexico, Formula One. I love that. Another good track. Mexico, good overtaking track with its long straight and plenty of DRS and some tricky corners. So that should be fun. MotoGP boys go to Malaysia, where, as I said, all the championships were done apart from the Moto2 fight, which is getting feisty. And then there's the NASCAR at Martinsville on Sunday night to see who makes the final 4.
Or who's going to make the final 2 out of Hamilton and I? That's probably the big question.
What, might you not be on next week, you mean?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Hamilton.
Wow. Hamilton.
I know I am around next week, but we'll see. See if I get subbed for Hamilton.
Subbed up. What was that word for what he's complaining about?
Put it in the comments below.
I'm nearly there. I've got to scroll down and find Tim Mayer. Tim Mayer withdraws and says it's the ethics committee. Ethics committee, yes. So he's now putting protests into it. I didn't even find the word. It just came out of the tiny bit of brain that's got ethics written in it. The ethics committee is Ben Sulayem and his co-managing director. 2 of them.
That's another ridiculous thing. So word of the day, ridiculous. On that note, have a great week. Speak to you soon. I might see you next week. You'll definitely see Tiff.
Cheers. Bye.